For this chapter, we're going to be working with some of the productivity techniques that I use regularly that will help you run through Adobe Photoshop in a more efficient manner. And we're going to start with some of the tools on the left hand side here. So I'll often switch back to the cursor tool, and if you can see when you hover over the tooltip, it shows that the shortcut is V. So if I press V, I go back to the cursor. What I can then do is switch to tools very quickly. So if I wanted the magic wand tool, it's W. And so the benefit here is that when you hover over and leave your mouse cursor over each of the tools, you can see that it gives you the shortcut by here. So that's the first tip I would give you, is that always start working with keyboard shortcuts, because this will increase the efficiency of your process dramatically. If I wanted to switch to the marquee tool, I can, and for example, if I wanted to crop out a section of the photo, by pressing M and jump straight to the tool, I can click and drag, and say, for example, I wanted to frame it in a little bit closer, I can then go to Image and then Crop, and then I can quickly crop. If I wanted to undo that, Control and Z or Command Z on a Mac just takes me back a step. That's the first thing to look for. Another one is Control and plus and minus. Control plus zooms in, and you can see we can go in a long way down to the level where it outlines each individual pixel color. Because we're working with bitmap files, every photo here is made up by individual pixels combined to create this high definition photo. We can also switch to the viewpoint in here, but as you can see, that's quite a long process to run through, as opposed to the Control plus minus that we have here, which takes us in and out quickly. So that's the second tip. Once you're zoomed in, you may want to access another area of the photo. So you could either select the hand tool via this menu here, which is H, and then as we can see then, that will allow us to drag. By clicking and holding the left mouse button, I can move around the photo to target individual areas. However, if I go back to the cursor tool, again, there's a quicker way. If I hold down the spacebar allows me to drag and pan around the photo and pan around the photo very easily. What I can then do is go to this switch quickly using the S key to clone stamp. I can then use the Alt key to select the area. So with a lot of the tools, like clone, like the spot heal tool, you may need to select an area that you want to replicate. If I wanted to, say, for example, take out these stalks from old nettles, or I think there's a piece of paper there in the field. So what I can do is, again, once I've got any of the tools that have a brush size, you hopefully can see that little circle, I can expand the size of it using the square brackets on the keyboard. So the closed bracket will make it larger and the open bracket smaller. So I can see then the size that I want to replicate. I can then hold down the Alt key, select the area that I want to copy and clone, and I can remove an item. If I'm done with that, I could switch back to the main cursor tool by pressing the V key. And as you can see, by learning these commands, so the J is the spot healing, so if I switch to that, I can make the cursor a little bit smaller, and the spot heal tool, which we'll cover in a later chapter, allows you to just take out blemishes or areas that aren't working particularly well. Now we can see here that it is actually applying a little bit of damage to the photo. So this is where we can combine the heal tool and the clone stamp tool and just repair it then afterwards. When we zoom back out, obviously we're not going to see those imperfections. So I can use Control and minus or if you're on a Mac, Command and minus to zoom back out. And there we've made a couple of changes. So again, we're going to do it one more time for luck. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hold down the space bar to pan to the bottom left of the photo, and we're going to take the stalk out of the photo. So again, I can use the Alt to select the area that I want to copy, and then I can click and drag it over. Now, grass is great for cloning because of the amount of detail in there. The amount of different color pixels means that it's easier to hide the fact that we've removed items. So I'm just going to do the same now for these bottom options as well. And there you have it. What we could then do is go to, again, the J key, switch to the heal tool, and just work with some of the areas. So if you see, sometimes you can see some repetition where something's repeating, like I think here. So you can just take those out. I'd be careful about taking out all of these remains of the nettle stalks here, because it could look too manufactured then. So it's about getting the balance right, where you're taking some of the main eyesores out but still leaving the detail in. So when you look at that section of the field, it looks fine. And then finally, again, I'm going to keep with the heal tool and just see if I can take away those divots in the ground. There we go. So we're going to be working with those in a lot more detail in future chapters, and we'll be using that same effect to get rid of this glare off the camera to show you how we can improve the photo so much. As I said before, and I'll say it again, there is no substitute for taking really good photos in the first place. So if you've got a glare on your photo, do yourself a favor and take another photo at a different time of day or a slightly different angle to avoid this scenario in the first place. It's much easier than spending an extra hour or two fixing it on Photoshop. If you've been out onto a specific site and you hadn't noticed the glare and you don't have the opportunity to take the photos again, then this is where these techniques can come in handy.